this stays here. I know it's kind of crooked, but I also don't super care. Folks, we made it. This year is at least about to be over. Another year is about to follow, feasibly. And as is ritual, it's time to count down the 10 best video games that I played during this year. And as tradition, I do it from my childhood closet. I don't do it for any particular reason. I just did it here last year, and I liked the way that the acoustics sounded. And it's kind of neat. I feel kind of secluded from everybody. Good year, bad year, any sort of innate quality given to any sort of year, it can all be debated, but one thing that cannot be debated is the fact that 2018 was a full year, and that I played many a video game in it. I actually found myself playing far more new games this year than I did in practically any year before. Last year, I remember struggling to find 10 games that I actually played over the course of the year, and this year I had no trouble with that. I actually had to pare down quite a bit from the fairly lengthy list of new interesting games I tried this year. I tried a lot of new stuff. I tried a lot of new stuff that I liked a lot, and that's one of the things that's going to stick with me in defining this year. Is some of the games on this list are games that came from genres I wouldn't have really played before, come from developers I probably haven't really experienced before, and there is one kind of through line, which is that most of these games are smaller, independent productions, which just generally are the types of productions that work best with me, or that resonate best with me. The things that I value from gaming tend to come from the smaller scale games. While it's not impossible that like a big budget title is going to blow my mind someday, that didn't really happen so much this year, and I tend to skew myself away from them. So if you're looking for the big budget game about whatever, cowboys or the Greek god or whatever, Spider's Man is not going to be here. Don't freak out. By the way, here's a list of games that I would like to play from this year that I haven't gotten around to yet. Happy Birthdays is a neat little ecological simulator. Effectively, it's about building a world inside a cube and evolving the creatures within until humans arrive. It may seem esoteric and a bit simple, and it is, but it's nice and calm and fun, and having had a public education from the state of Kansas, it actually opened my eyes to a lot of new ideas. Remember last year I played and I loved a little game called Limelight. Flat Heroes is like Limelight, except Limelight made me empathize with little lines, and Flat Heroes has me kind of twitching and sputtering swear words at those same little lines. It had technically its first release back on PC in 2016, but it came out on Switch this year, and that's how I played it, so I'm going to count it as this year. Real quick here, just want to shout out a developer who goes by the name Ouch. Really, this spot should be reserved for 3 of their games as I get the e-reader in the shot. Tennis, which is an open-world bullet hell tennis game, Beat the Heartbreaker, which is a game about punching people, and Long Live the Axe, which is a game basically about like crawling through dungeons and stuff and fighting people. And it's, the game itself is fine. It's really the aesthetic of each of this developer's games that really resonated with me this year. They're kind of eerie, a little bit off-putting, but ultimately very fun to look at. In kind of a, not cryptic, in kind of a, let's think of a word here. Morbid sense? Let's say that. You know what is wonderful is if you have like Great Plains high school kids and something goes wrong with them. You're guaranteed for me to be like, yeah, this is my shit. That's extremely my shit. That's why I watched Friday Night Lights even after the one kid killed a guy and like nobody said anything about it. Football Game actually channels a lot of that. It's small, but it tells a creepy little story that ends up with a kind of satisfying but ultimately deliciously like empty non-ending, which is kind of cool. I had a best friend growing up who lived across the street from me. She, I think her parents got divorced around like 5th or 6th grade, and they ended up moving away. And after that, we weren't occupying the same sort of physical streets anymore, and that friendship kind of ended. Probably 6 years later, freshman year of college, we lived at the same dorm, and we probably encountered each other several times, but I don't think we ever acknowledged each other. And this game captures the sort of the intensity of childhood friendships without the use of verbal language, without really the use of a lot of physical language either. It's impressive as a feat of gaming to empathize that much with somebody with so little language exchanged between the two characters, and also mechanically the characters play off of each other so well. It's not a difficult game in the least, but actually getting through it kind of pushes you to sympathize with these characters in a way that I think feels very universal. I mean, the experience of having a childhood friend and move away is something that I think a lot of people can identify with, myself included, and so that's probably actually why I reacted so positively to it. Okay, so I normally dislike traveling through like a maze or a cave or whatever in games, and then, you know, like the roguelike sort of game where you die, then all your stuff's left somewhere and you gotta go get it. But Dandara managed to like hide the information I desired away, managed to make finding anything feel like an accomplishment, and both of those little aspects kind of force this game to overcome the ingrained prejudice I have against this sort of genre. And I think it's something interesting. I don't really like, mystery novels or action movies or track and field events or whatever, but when a particularly engaging piece of media comes from those genres against which I have a sort of prejudice, it almost shines brighter in contrast, because I knew it had to overcome something like within myself, and there's the possibility that I might go to a different, like a roguelike game, like a Bloodborne or whatever in the future, and feel that same sort of thing, kind of feel those resonances that were seated in me with Dandara. So I really appreciate that game for that, for opening up my sort of horizons, in a sense. About 5 years ago, my friend Clay was playing Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and he said to me, you know, I think I wouldn't like this game if the music weren't this good. He was traversing through Dracula's castle the way that you have to do all of the time in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and that moment really solidified what I think of the Metroidvania genre. That's generally something I don't like doing, is traversing, trying to find my way around places. But Yoku's Island Express took that part of the game I disliked and added pinball. So effectively we had a pinball Metroidvania, which is 3 games for the price of 1, and that's just economy, that's just math, baby. Yoku's Island Express, number 4 on the list, shout out. They did it again, baby. Point and click on top once again. Hell yeah. Why should I? I'm thinking about doing like a longer video on this game. Actually, I've tried many a times. I've written one. I can't really like perform it, is my issue. I'm struggling so much with how to actually like speak about this game. So I'm going to try to condense my opinions on it very quickly here. I just like how when a sports game is made well, it's still treated as a second-tier sort of game, because this is absolutely the best pure sports game I've ever played. I played the hell out of the season mode. It took me 4 32-game seasons to win a title, and I found myself even more invested each time I played through the season mode, making up stories for players, knowing each of their strengths and weaknesses, and strategically matching my playstyle to those strengths and weaknesses. I've actually never played a game that does this well, and I think that's why I like this game as much as I do. It is simple, it doesn't bog you down with the mechanical aspects of the game, but that's not at the sacrifice of strategic aspects of the game. The closest thing I can think of as an amalgam is amalgam the right word, or is an analogy? I say to an off-screen producer who's actually a crate full of VHS tapes. The closest analog I can think of is Mario Golf on the N64, how it had that shot meter where you'd have to like strategically guess how well you were going to hit the ball in order to kind of judge how your shot would be. I don't really know how to explain it. I don't really know how to explain it here. The act of playing strategically and the act of playing are both about as easy as each other. And that's something very, very difficult to do when your game is kind of built off of simplicity of play. The games, I think, there's no strategy in NFL Blitz or NBA Jam or anything of that sort, really, and that's kind of part of the reason why those games are fun for a little bit, but people, big communities don't form around those games. Super Mega Baseball 2 captures something between those, though. It's somewhere between Blitz and Madden, or whatever the baseball equivalent, what the fuck was the baseball equivalent? MLB Slugfest and MLB The Show. Somewhere between those, you find Super Mega Baseball right at the perfect intersection to fit somebody like me. Baseball is a game of crystallized moments. Each play begins in the pitcher's hand and ends in only a few different ways. Caught by an outfielder, on the ground, foul ball, in the crowd after a home run, And yet, through this heavy structure, and perhaps because of this heavy structure, absolutely unbelievable, magical moments break through, and each of them take, at most, about 18 seconds to finish. Super Mega Baseball 2 channels that. It gets those moments. I care less that a sports game simulates every little thing perfectly, and I care more if a sports game can capture those big things with that same sort of emotion and that same sort of feeling that the actual sport presents. Because to be honest with you, while it's interesting, I know that years of training and work and performance-enhancing drugs went into a World Series winning home run. I don't care to play that as much, and it's hard to channel that without the context, I think is one of my issues. This is just a rough game to try to... I like this game so much that I'm having a very hard time accurately praising it because I feel like I'm going to miss something. Now, after that very muddy description of a video game, please let me name games that I also played this year that I also liked. Desert Child, Basketball Classics, Abstractonoid, The Norwood Suite, September 1999, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, NBA Live 18, The Longest 5 Minutes, No Thing, Minute, and Into the Breach, both of which I meant to put on this list somewhere. We'll put Minute somewhere around number 7 and Into the Breach somewhere around number 4. Just pretend they're there. Also, shout out to some old games that I played and loved this year. Downhill Demolition for the PlayStation 2, Geom Cube and Super Puzzle Fighter 2 for the PlayStation, Drill Dozer for the Game Boy Advance, and actually I'm pretty sure had it come out this year I would have put Wonder Boy The Dragon's Trap at the top of my list. That game is unbelievable, and I cannot believe that it took me not only a year to play the remake, but 30 years to play that game. I had no idea about Wonder Boy, and now I do. Also, Thrasher, Escape and Destroy, still the king. Alright, you guys knew this was coming. Celeste is a game that hit me so hard, so well, and was so good that I will likely never touch it again. And I know the idea that saying I'm never going to play this game again does not sound like positive criticism, but I think given how heavily context plays in my sense of emotion, how heavily a sense of time plays in my sense of appreciation for a piece of art like this, I don't think I'll ever enjoy Celeste the way I first enjoyed Celeste, because I'm mercifully, and thank the Lord, never going to experience February 2018 again. That was a bad month with a lot of rough patches. I played most of Celeste in a hospital waiting room as my dad had back surgery, and as I was like barely but still kind of almost steadily climbing out of depression that had built up over years of kind of inactive understanding of my own mental health. And I made a video earlier this year where I kind of tried to match that metaphor to my own contextual journey, and the most interesting thing going back and watching that video is how far things have gone since then, how much that metaphor seemed to make complete sense then, and how I can't separate that game from that time now. I don't know that if I played Celeste now for the first time, it would hit me the way that it did then. And I don't know that if I'm ever going to play that game again, it will ever have that satisfying of a feeling again. That cathartic of a feeling again. That perfect placement that game had in time and in emotion. And for myself, it feels like kind of a fool's errand to believe that I'm ever going to need this game again. Which, oh shit, that's a part in the game. No, she said, Madeline says to Madeline, like, oh, I just don't need you anymore. And this, the whole, they go through, maybe I will. Maybe I'll have to fight it again. I'm sure I'll come back to it. But no, I know it's never going to be February 2018 again. And that game was so perfect for that period of time for me that I think it would somehow, it wouldn't like dampen the experience. It would just change it in a way that I don't feel like necessarily changing it. This game was so good that I think I would actually be doing my own experience of it a little bit of injustice by trying to recreate it. And fuck if that isn't what video games are for, honestly. For me, if that is that sense that I can get out of a great video game, that is why I continue to play them, and why I'm so excited to just try new things in this coming year, because I feel like that experience is going to be in stock for me again. And the anticipation of it, even if that one in particular took mental health issues that bordered on very unhealthy thoughts, you know, if it took that to get to that, like, it's not all totally worth it, but it was there for me, you know, and something's going to be there for me again in the future. And it's just like this incredible thing that we get out of I really only get this out of video games and sports and music. And it's why I love these sorts of things. I went way longer in this than I thought I would. Whatever. We're done. We get it. Happy New Year. Go. God, I don't even want to pick a team in the playoff. Let's say Notre Dame. Fuck it. No, Land Grant School. What's the most public school there? Clemson? Yeah, say Clemson. Go Clemson. I'll probably do another video, actually. Like a 2019 vlog. I don't like vlogs so much, but I feel like I kind of want to do something, so that's how it goes. I'm gonna edit this out anyway, so. God, I'm sitting on a Papa John's bag. That's the most interesting thing.